I woke up Thursday morning feeling unusually light around my head. Half asleep, I reached up to touch my hair and felt something drastically wrong. What should have been my shoulder-length silver hair was now choppy, uneven, and barely reaching my ears in some places. Stumbling to the bathroom mirror, I gasped at my reflection. Someone had cut my hair while I slept, badly, carelessly, like a child playing with scissors. Chunks were missing, the back was crooked, and one side was significantly shorter than the other. Surprise, Grandma Betty. I turned to find my daughter-in-law Amber standing in the doorway, holding her phone and grinning like she'd just delivered the best gift of my life. Amber, what did you do to my hair? I gave you a makeover. You looked so old-fashioned with that long hair. Now you look modern and edgy. I stared at her, trying to process that someone had assaulted me in my sleep and was now expecting gratitude for it. You cut my hair without my permission while I was sleeping. Oh, don't be so dramatic. Hair grows back. Besides, I got the whole thing on video for TikTok. It's going to be so funny. She showed me her phone screen, where a video was already posted with the caption, "Giving Grandma a glow up while she sleeps. Face with tears of joy #prank wars #family fun #hair makeover." In the video, I could see myself lying peacefully in bed while Amber crept in with scissors, filming herself cutting random chunks of my hair while making exaggerated shushing gestures to the camera. Amber, this is assault. You can't cut someone's hair without their consent. Assault. She laughed. It's a harmless prank. Everyone does stuff like this on social media. You're just not used to modern humor. My son Derek appeared in the doorway, apparently drawn by our conversation. When he saw my butchered hair, he burst out laughing. Oh my God, Mom. What happened to your hair? Your wife cut it while I was sleeping and posted the video online. Derek looked at Amber's phone and started laughing even harder. Babe, this is hilarious. Look at Mom's face when she wakes up. I watched my son, my own son, finding humor in my humiliation, enjoying a video of me being violated while unconscious. Derek, this isn't funny. What Amber did was wrong. Mom, relax. It's just hair. Amber's right, you needed an update anyway. Just hair. As if my appearance was community property that anyone in the family could modify without permission. I'm going to get dressed, I said quietly, closing the bathroom door on their laughter. As I tried to make my hair look somewhat presentable, I could hear them in the kitchen talking about the video, reading comments from strangers who found my humiliation entertaining. Look, it already has 500 likes. Amber squealed. The comments are so funny, Derek added. Someone said Grandma's face is priceless. I'd been living with Derek and Amber for 8 months, ever since my arthritis had made living alone in my 2-story house too difficult. They'd been kind enough to offer me their guest room, and I'd been grateful for the family support during a challenging time. What I hadn't told them was that my move to their house had nothing to do with financial need. My arthritis struggles were real, but my financial situation was more complex than they understood. Over the past 15 years, I'd built a small but profitable business buying distressed mortgages from banks and either restructuring them for struggling homeowners or, when necessary, proceeding with foreclosure. It wasn't glamorous work, but it had made me quite wealthy while helping many families keep their homes. Derek and Amber thought I was a retired teacher living on a modest pension. They had no idea that I owned the mortgage company that held their loan, or that they'd been struggling to make payments on a house they were essentially renting from me. When they'd bought the house 3 years ago, they'd barely qualified for the loan. Within 6 months, they were behind on payments due to Derek's inconsistent contractor income and Amber's inability to keep a job for more than a few months at a time. Rather than watch them lose their home, I'd quietly purchased their mortgage from the bank through my company, Sunset Financial Services, and restructured it with more favorable terms. They thought they'd been approved for a loan modification through their mortgage company's generosity. They didn't realize their mortgage company was their mother-in-law. For 3 years, I'd been accepting payments that were $800 below market rate, essentially gifting them nearly $30,000 in housing subsidies while they remained blissfully unaware that their financial stability depended on my ongoing charity. Recently, however, their payments had become increasingly late and unreliable. Last month's payment was 3 weeks overdue, and they'd made no attempt to communicate about the delay or arrange a payment plan. As their landlord, I'd been patient. As their family member, I'd been understanding. But as I stood in their bathroom looking at my butchered hair and listening to them laugh about violating me for social media content, my patience was wearing thin. I got dressed and went to the kitchen, where Derek and Amber were still scrolling through comments on the video. "Betty, you should see this," Amber called out without looking up. "Someone shared the video and it's got like 2,000 views now." "Congratulations," I said dryly. "You've successfully made my humiliation go viral." "Oh, don't be such a downer. You look cute. And look, someone commented that you should thank me for the free haircut." Free haircut. As if assault became a gift when performed by family. "What would you like for breakfast?" I asked, moving toward the stove. "Ooh, can you make those pancakes with the blueberries?" Amber requested. "I'm starving after all that creative energy." Creative energy. She was proud of what she'd done. I made breakfast in silence while they continued celebrating their viral video success. Every few minutes, one of them would read aloud a new comment, finding fresh amusement in strangers mocking my appearance and their violation of my trust. "This one says grandma got owned." Derek laughed. "And this one says I wish someone would give my grandma a makeover." Amber added. As I served their pancakes, I thought about power dynamics, respect, and the distance between how people treat you when they think you're powerless versus how they might treat you if they understood your actual position. "Derek," I said calmly, "didn't you mention that you were concerned about your mortgage payment this month?" His face immediately sobered. "Yeah, we're going to be a little late again. Maybe another week or two." "How late exactly?" "I don't know, Mom. Work has been slow, and Amber's still looking for a new job." Amber had been looking for a new job for 3 months, ever since she'd been fired from her last position for excessive social media use during work hours. Apparently, creating viral content was more important than maintaining employment. "Have you contacted your mortgage company about the delay?" "Not yet. But they've been pretty understanding before when we've been late." Understanding. If only he knew how understanding. "What's the name of your mortgage company again?" Sunset Financial Services. They're actually pretty cool, not like those big banks that foreclose on people for being a few days late. I nodded. "That's good. It's important to have a mortgage company that works with families during difficult times." "Totally. Though honestly, we've been pushing it lately. This will be the 4th time this year we've been late." 4th time. I'd been tracking their payment history carefully, and their delinquencies were accelerating. "What do you think would happen if Sunset Financial Services lost patience with your payment delays?" Derek's expression darkened. "I don't know. Foreclosure, I guess. But hopefully it won't come to that." "Hopefully," I agreed. After breakfast, I excused myself to my room and called my property manager, Tom Martinez, who handled day-to-day operations for Sunset Financial Services. "Tom, it's Betty. I need you to send a formal notice of default to the Derek Thompson property. They are now 23 days late on their mortgage payment." "Mrs. Chen, are you sure? That's your son's house." "I'm sure. They need to understand that late payments have consequences." "What about the family relationship?" "The family relationship is exactly why they need to learn this lesson before it's too late." "Should I mention that you're the owner?" "Not yet. Send the standard notice. If they contact us about payment arrangements, I want you to refer them directly to me. And if they can't make the payment, then we'll proceed with foreclosure proceedings. Family or no family." After hanging up with Tom, I called my hairstylist and made an emergency appointment to fix the damage Amber had done. The repair would cost $200 and take several hours, time I'd planned to spend helping Derek organize his business paperwork. Instead, I'd be spending my afternoon fixing the consequences of my daughter-in-law's assault while she enjoyed her viral fame. At 2 p.m., while I was at the salon, Tom called with an update. "Mrs. Chen, Derek Thompson just called our office in a panic. He received the default notice and wants to discuss payment options." "What did you tell him?" "I told him he needed to speak directly with the owner of the loan. I scheduled a meeting for tomorrow at 3 p.m. "Perfect. Did he seem surprised by the formal notice?" "Very surprised. He kept saying that Sunset Financial had been understanding before and asking why they were suddenly being so aggressive." "And what did you say?" I said that payment delinquencies have cumulative effects on loan status, and that the owner had decided to take a more formal approach to collection procedures. Good. See you tomorrow. When I returned home from the salon with my hair properly repaired, Amber was still showing off her viral video to neighbors and friends. The view count had climbed to over 10,000, and she was fielding requests for interviews from local social media influencers. Betty, your hair looks so much better now. See, I told you that old style wasn't working for you. She actually took credit for my professional hair repair, as if her assault had been the first step in a planned makeover process. Amber, I have some questions about your job search. What about it? How long do you think it will take you to find employment? I don't know. The job market is really tough right now. Plus, I've been so busy with my social media content that I haven't had much time for applications. I see. And Derek, how is your contractor work going? It's picking up. I should have some bigger projects coming in next month. That's good, because Tom Martinez from Sunset Financial Services wants to meet with you tomorrow afternoon about your mortgage situation. Derek's face went pale. They want to meet? That sounds serious. Payment delinquencies tend to become serious when they are frequent and unresolved. But we always catch up eventually. Eventually isn't the same as on time, Derek. Amber looked confused. What's the big deal? So we're a little late with the payment. That's normal. Actually, it's not normal, I said calmly. Most mortgage companies expect payments to be made by the due date specified in the contract. But they've been cool about it before. Have they? Or have you simply assumed that patience is the same as approval? Derek started pacing. Mom, what if they want to foreclose? What if we lose the house? Then you'll lose the house, Derek. That's how mortgages work. But we can't lose the house. We have nowhere else to go. You should have thought about that before you prioritized viral videos over employment. The connection between Amber's social media priorities and their financial consequences seemed to hit Derek for the first time. Amber, maybe you should spend less time on TikTok and more time job hunting. Don't blame me for our money problems. You're the one whose contractor business is inconsistent. I'm working. You're the one who got fired for making videos during work hours. As they argued, I sat quietly and thought about consequences, accountability, and the difference between family support and family enabling. Tomorrow afternoon, they would learn that their understanding mortgage company had limits. Tomorrow afternoon, they would discover that actions have consequences even when performed on family members. Most importantly, tomorrow afternoon, they would find out exactly who had been subsidizing their lifestyle while they treated her like someone whose boundaries didn't matter. The hair would grow back. The respect, once lost, would take much longer to restore. At exactly 3 p.m. Friday afternoon, Derek left for his meeting with Sunset Financial Services. He'd been nervous all morning, calling the mortgage company twice to confirm the appointment and asking me repeatedly what I thought they wanted to discuss. Just be honest about your financial situation, I'd advised. And be prepared to make concrete commitments about future payments. Do you think they'll give us another chance? That depends entirely on what you're willing to offer and how seriously you take their concerns. While Derek was gone, Amber continued riding her viral fame. The haircutting video had reached 50,000 views and had been shared by several larger TikTok accounts. She'd spent the morning responding to comments and planning follow-up content. I'm thinking of doing a whole series called Pranking Grandma, she told me excitedly. Maybe next time I could rearrange your room or hide your medications as a joke. Amber, hiding someone's medications isn't a prank. It's dangerous. Oh, don't be so dramatic. It would just be for a few hours for the video. What if I had a medical emergency during those hours? Then it would make an even better video. Medical emergencies are great for engagement. I stared at her, this woman who thought my potential medical crises were content opportunities, and felt my last reserves of family charity evaporating. Amber, do you understand that what you did to my hair was assault? Assault? God, you're so overdramatic. It was a harmless prank. Cutting someone's hair without consent is legally assault in most states. Well, it's not like you're going to press charges against your own daughter-in-law. Aren't I? For the first time, Amber looked uncertain. You wouldn't actually call the police over a haircut. I might surprise you. At 4:30 p.m., Derek returned from his meeting looking like he'd seen a ghost. He walked into the house in complete silence, sat down at the kitchen table, and stared at the foreclosure notice he'd been given. How did it go? I asked calmly. They are starting foreclosure proceedings. Amber looked up from her phone. What? That's crazy. Over one late payment. It's not one late payment, Amber. It's 4 late payments this year, and they said the owner has lost patience with our pattern of financial irresponsibility. Who's the owner? I don't know. Tom Martinez said the owner prefers to remain anonymous but has decided that we're not reliable borrowers. That's so unfair. We always pay eventually. Eventually isn't good enough anymore, Derek said, his voice hollow. They want the full amount of missed payments plus penalties within 30 days, or they are taking the house. How much is that? Derek looked at the paperwork. $12,000. $12,000? Where are we supposed to get $12,000? I have no idea. I continued making dinner while they panicked, listening to them cycle through denial, anger, and desperate brainstorming about where they could possibly find $12,000 in 30 days. Maybe we could get a loan from your mom, Amber suggested. Derek laughed bitterly. Mom lives on a teacher's pension, Amber. She doesn't have $12,000 lying around. If only he knew. Maybe we could start a GoFundMe, Amber continued. I could make a video about our situation. Absolutely not, Derek snapped. We're not begging strangers for money because you can't keep a job. It's not my fault the job market is terrible. It's your fault you got fired for making TikTok videos at work. As they argued, I placed their dinner plates in front of them and sat down to eat. Derek, I said quietly, did Tom Martinez mention who owns your mortgage? Just that it's some private investor who bought it from the bank a few years ago. And this investor has been patient with your late payments until now. Apparently, Tom said the owner had been remarkably accommodating given our payment history, but that our latest delinquency was the final straw. What exactly were his words? Derek pulled out a business card. He said if we wanted to discuss payment arrangements, we needed to speak directly with the owner. He gave me this number to call. I looked at the business card. It was my direct office line. Have you called yet? I'm working up the courage. Tom made it sound like the owner is pretty angry about our payment problems. Maybe you should call right now. Waiting won't improve your situation. Derek nodded and dialed the number on the card. My phone rang immediately. Sunset Financial Services, this is Betty. Derek's face went through several expressions as he heard my voice on the other end of the line. Mom. Hello, Derek. I understand you'd like to discuss your mortgage situation. Mom, what? How are you? Why are you answering the phone at the mortgage company? Because I own the mortgage company, Derek. The silence that followed was absolute. Derek stared at me while still holding the phone to his ear, his brain clearly struggling to process what he'd just learned. You own Sunset Financial Services. I do. You own our mortgage. I do. Amber had stopped scrolling through her phone and was listening with growing confusion. For how long? 3 years. Since about 6 months after you bought the house. Derek slowly hung up the phone, his eyes never leaving my face. You've been our mortgage company for 3 years. That's correct. And you've been giving us breaks on late payments. I've been very patient with your payment schedule, yes. Amber finally spoke up. Wait, what's happening? What are you guys talking about? Derek turned to his wife, his voice barely a whisper. My mother owns our mortgage. She's been our landlord for 3 years. That's impossible. Your mom is just a retired teacher. Actually, I'm a retired teacher who spent 15 years building a mortgage investment business. Amber stared at me. You're rich. I'm financially comfortable, yes. But you live so modestly. You shop at discount stores. You drive an old car. Living below your means is how you build wealth, Amber. Spending money you don't have on things you don't need is how you lose it. Derek was still processing. Mom, the favorable loan terms we got, that was you. I restructured your mortgage to prevent foreclosure when you fell behind in year 1. The payment modifications when I was out of work, that was you. Yes. With what income, Derek? Amber hasn't worked in 3 months, and your contractor business is inconsistent at best. I'll find steady work. Amber will get a job. Amber will get a job where she can't make TikTok videos during work hours. Amber flinched. I've learned my lesson about that. Have you? Because this morning you were planning a series called Pranking Grandma that included hiding my medications for content. Derek turned to stare at his wife. You were planning to hide Mom's medications. Just as a prank. Just for a video. Amber, Mom has arthritis and heart medication. You can't hide someone's medical supplies. It would have been fine. I would have given them back. After you got your content, I said quietly. After you potentially triggered a medical emergency for views. The room fell silent as the full scope of Amber's thoughtlessness became clear. Derek, I continued, your wife cut my hair while I slept and posted the video online. When confronted, she showed no remorse and was already planning additional assaults for future content. And your response was to laugh and call it hilarious. Derek looked ashamed. I'm sorry, Mom. I should have stood up for you. Yes, you should have. Just like you should have been more responsible about your mortgage payments. What do you want us to do? I want you to understand that your housing security for the past 3 years has depended on the generosity of someone you just humiliated for entertainment. I want you to grasp that your financial stability has been subsidized by someone you think is powerless to defend herself. And then what? Then you decide whether you want to be the kind of people who deserve that generosity, or the kind of people who lose it through their own actions. Amber was crying harder now. Betty, please don't take our house. We'll do anything. Anything except treat me with basic human dignity, apparently. We can change. We can be better. Prove it. How? I pulled out a contract I'd prepared that morning. By agreeing to the terms that will allow you to keep the house. Derek reached for the contract with shaking hands. What kind of terms? Terms that reflect the reality of our relationship instead of the fantasy you've been living. As Derek read the contract, his face went through a series of expressions: shock, resignation, and finally, understanding. Mom, this says we'd be paying market rate rent instead of the subsidized mortgage payments. That's correct. $2,647 per month instead of $1,847. That's $800 more than we've been paying. That's what housing actually costs, Derek. I've been giving you an $800 monthly discount for 3 years. And it says here that late payments result in immediate eviction proceedings. Also correct. No more patience for financial irresponsibility. Amber was reading over his shoulder. And it says we have to take down the hair video and issue a public apology. It says you have to acknowledge publicly that assault isn't entertainment and that you violated someone who trusted you. But the video has 50,000 views. It's my most successful content ever. Congratulations. You've successfully monetized assault. Now you get to publicly admit that's what you did. Derek looked between the contract and me. Mom, these terms are harsh. These terms are fair. You can accept them and keep the house, or reject them and move out in 30 days. What if we can't afford the higher rent? Then you'll need to find housing you can afford, just like everyone else who doesn't have family subsidizing their lifestyle. And if we agree to this contract, then you'll be tenants instead of charity cases, and I'll be your landlord instead of your enabler. Derek and Amber spent the next hour trying to negotiate softer terms, asking for payment plans, grace periods, and exceptions to the accountability measures I'd outlined. Each request was met with the same response: those are the terms. Accept them or find alternative housing. Finally, Derek signed the contract. What about Amber? I asked. She'll sign too. Won't you, Amber? Amber looked at the contract like it was a death sentence, but eventually picked up the pen. This isn't fair, she muttered. What isn't fair is assaulting someone and expecting them to continue subsidizing your lifestyle, I replied. As they signed the paperwork that would transform them from subsidized family members to accountable tenants, I thought about the lessons they would learn over the next few months. They would learn what their housing actually cost without family charity. They would learn that employment isn't optional when you have real financial obligations. They would learn that respect isn't automatically granted based on family relationships. Most importantly, they would learn that the quiet grandmother they'd humiliated for TikTok likes had more power than they'd ever imagined. The hair would grow back. The respect, once lost, would take much longer to restore. But accountability, once established, would change everything. 6 months after signing the tenant agreement, Derek and Amber's life had changed dramatically. The increased rent payment had forced them both into full-time employment. Derek had taken a steady job with a construction company, and Amber had found work at a retail store that strictly prohibited personal phone use during shifts. The public apology video Amber had been required to post had gone viral for different reasons than her original content. Her admission that she'd assaulted her mother-in-law for entertainment had been widely criticized, leading to her losing most of her social media following and teaching her that negative attention was worse than no attention at all. But the most significant change was in how they treated me. "Good morning, Mrs. Chen," Amber said formally as she passed me in the kitchen. Our relationship had become polite but distant, the easy familiarity of family replaced by the careful courtesy of a tenant addressing her landlord. "Good morning, Amber. How is the job search for weekend work going? I have an interview today at the coffee shop downtown. The extra income would help with the rent increase." "That's good. Steady employment is important for meeting financial obligations." Derek appeared, dressed for work and looking more responsible than he had in years. "Morning, Mom. I mean, Mrs. Chen." "Derek, when we're discussing family matters, you can call me Mom. When we're discussing tenant issues, Mrs. Chen is appropriate." "Got it. Today feels like a tenant issue day. I wanted to ask about getting the kitchen faucet repaired. Submit a maintenance request through the property management portal, and someone will schedule the repair. Even though you're my mother. Especially because I'm your mother. You need to learn proper procedures for adult responsibilities." This was the new dynamic we'd established. Family relationships and business relationships were kept strictly separate. Derek and Amber could call me Mom during personal conversations, but any housing-related issues were handled through formal channels with proper documentation. It had been a difficult adjustment for all of us, but it was working. Derek and Amber were learning accountability, and I was no longer being taken advantage of under the guise of family loyalty. That afternoon, Amber came home from her job interview looking excited. "I got the weekend position. It's only 15 hours a week, but it'll help us save money for the security deposit." "Security deposit for what?" "For our own place. Derek and I have been talking, and we think it's time to find our own apartment." I was surprised. "You want to move out?" "We want to try living independently. Really independently, without family help." Derek nodded as he joined us. "We've learned a lot about budgeting and responsibility over the past 6 months. We think we're ready to manage our own housing without anyone subsidizing us." "That's a big step. Are you sure you can afford market-rate housing without the stability of this arrangement?" "We've been saving the difference between what we pay you and what apartments cost. We have enough for a security deposit and first month's rent on a 2-bedroom place. And you understand that living independently means no family backup if you fall behind on rent." "We understand," Amber said firmly. "We also understand that we need to prove we can be responsible adults without anyone catching us when we fall." I studied their faces, looking for signs of the immaturity and irresponsibility that had characterized their behavior just months earlier. What I saw instead was genuine growth and determination. "When are you planning to move?" "End of next month, if we can find the right place." "That gives you 30 days notice, which satisfies the lease terms. Are you okay with us leaving?" I thought about it carefully. "I'm proud of you for wanting to try independence. That's what this whole experience was supposed to teach you." Derek looked relieved. "We were worried you'd think we were abandoning you." "Derek, the goal was never for you to live with me forever. The goal was for you to learn to live responsibly on your own." "And if we fail? If we can't make it without family help?" "Then you'll learn from that failure and try again. But you won't learn anything if you never get the chance to succeed or fail on your own merits." Over the next month, I helped Derek and Amber apartment hunt, but in a different way than I might have before. Instead of offering to co-sign leases or provide financial guarantees, I helped them understand lease terms, calculate total housing costs, and assess whether apartments fit their actual budget. "This place is perfect," Amber said about a spacious two-bedroom with amenities they couldn't afford. "It's $400 over your budget," I pointed out. "But we could make it work with overtime and extra shifts." "Your budget should be based on guaranteed income, not potential overtime. What happens if overtime isn't available some weeks?" "We'd figure it out." "No, Amber. You'd fall behind on rent and face eviction. Choose housing you can afford on your base income." It was a hard lesson, but they eventually found a modest one-bedroom apartment that fit their budget with room for savings. It wasn't as nice as the house they'd been living in, but it was theirs, truly theirs, paid for with their own earnings. The day they moved out, Derek lingered at the door. "Mom, I want to thank you for teaching us what we needed to learn." "What did you need to learn?" "That family love doesn't mean enabling irresponsible behavior. That respect has to be earned, even from relatives. And that real independence means being able to support yourself without depending on other people's charity." "What about the hair incident? Have you learned anything from that?" Derek looked ashamed. "I learned that laughing at someone's humiliation makes me complicit in their abuse. I learned that family loyalty means protecting people, not entertainment at their expense." "And Amber? What has she learned?" Amber stepped forward, looking more mature than I'd ever seen her. "I learned that other people's bodies and dignity aren't content for my entertainment. I learned that assault doesn't become acceptable just because you call it a prank. And I learned that consequences don't disappear just because you didn't mean to hurt anyone." "What will you do differently in the future?" "I'll ask for consent before touching anyone, even for harmless things. I'll think about how my actions affect other people instead of just how they might look on social media. And I'll remember that viral content isn't worth hurting people I care about." 6 months later, Derek and Amber were thriving in their apartment. Derek had been promoted to crew leader at the construction company, and Amber had advanced to assistant manager at her retail job. They were making all their rent payments on time and had even started a small emergency fund. More importantly, they had learned to treat people with dignity regardless of their perceived power or status. Amber had completely abandoned her social media pranking and had started creating content about budgeting and responsible financial management. Derek had become someone who stood up for others instead of laughing at their humiliation. Our family dinners were different now, more honest, more respectful, with conversations based on mutual regard rather than the assumption that some family members existed to serve others' needs. "Mom," Derek said during one of our Sunday dinners, "I need to tell you something." "What's that?" "I'm grateful that you foreclosed on us." I looked surprised. "Grateful? If you hadn't forced us to face consequences, we would never have learned to be responsible adults. We would have kept taking advantage of your generosity while treating you poorly. And if you hadn't cut my hair and posted it online." Amber answered this time. "If I hadn't done that, you probably would have kept enabling our irresponsibility out of family loyalty. In a weird way, my assault on you saved our family by forcing the truth into the open. The truth being that you were subsidizing people who didn't appreciate your sacrifices, didn't respect your boundaries, and didn't understand your worth." I thought about that perspective. "So you think humiliating me was ultimately helpful?" "No," Amber said quickly. "Humiliating you was cruel and wrong. But your response to that humiliation, refusing to continue enabling us, was exactly what we needed to grow up." Derek nodded. "You taught us that love doesn't mean accepting abuse, that family doesn't mean unlimited patience with disrespect, and that sometimes the most caring thing you can do is force people to face the consequences of their actions." A year after the hair incident, I received an unexpected package in the mail. Inside was a professional photo album documenting Derek and Amber's journey to independence, along with a letter. "Dear Mom and Mrs. Chen," it began, "today marks 1 year since we moved into our own apartment and started living as truly independent adults. We wanted to share some pictures of what we've accomplished and thank you for making it possible.